Oh, that's cell tower. Okay. I wish Eric was here. I did call his wife about it. The water district had an issue, but I'm sure he took care of it. That was back in February. I had to know by February. Sampling was supposed to be done in 15. He never got back to me, so I'm sure he took care of it. So is there anything else to come before the board? Anything to the community?
I'd be willing to say something, if anybody wants to go first.
Go ahead.
All right, well, I've got just a couple things. I'll leave copies with when I'm done. But I wanted to make the board aware, you may have seen it or you may not have, that the Town Board of Oneonta passed a resolution about large-scale new pipeline project and compressor stations. And, there's like every resolution, there's a lot of whereases in it. But some of these whereases do have to do with the air quality and other issues that we have brought before the board before, and basically, and it brings up the fact that has been mentioned that the EPA's measurements of emissions from compressor stations are based on yearly averages and fail to account for exposure and significant spikes. We have talked about that, and that the EPA provisions only reach a minimum standard for the Clean Air Act. So with all the various whereases, they resolved that the town of Oneonta joins the American Medical Association and the Medical Society of New York State in recognizing the potential impacts on human health and the environment associated with natural gas infrastructure, and requests that New York State perform a full and comprehensive assessment regarding the health and environmental risks that are associated with natural gas pipelines prior to permitting of construction of a new infrastructure. And they were going to pass that on to the Governor Cuomo, the DEC, and the Health Commissioner and others. So, I wanted to make you aware that, other places in the area were getting concerned about it. I also have a copy of a letter that Chris Gibson sent to FERC, and he was talking about specifically about the compressor station that they're planning for down in Highland, down in his neck of the country in Sullivan County. And he also stresses to FERC that there's evidence of leaks and releases from compressor stations and allocated levels of VOCs. But he requested FERC that they include public health expertise on all environmental assessment and environmental impact statement reviews, that they convene an independent panel to review the current federal exposure standards around compressor stations. And so, he's expressing his concerns also about compressors. I also have a copy. The most recent data I can get is from 2008. I have been searching to try to find something up to date. In 2008, there were over 1,400 compressor stations, and they're dotted on the map. I mean, it looks like you got smallpox. We know that from 2008 to now, they have been escalating dramatically, particularly in Pennsylvania. I mean, we know Sullivan County, Pennsylvania has 45 compressors just of itself right now. So anyway, with that in mind, I just wanted to bring it up again. We talked about on December 30th, 2014, we started raising health issues with the board that are related to emissions and things. We asked in July about, you consider any future negotiations, if it comes to a pipeline compressor negotiation, that you do increase baseline standards, and I think you're on board with that. But one thing we have asked since the February 2015 meeting, I have asked for a resolution in opposition to a compressor station. You have responded with a conditional one, pending on more information. Now that there is a lot more information, I have a copy of one that was used in another town that I kind of purloined and used a little bit to get some of the whereases in there, so that your lawyer wouldn't have to do all the work. But I would like to ask the board again to please consider passing a resolution in opposition, an unconditional opposition, to a compressor station for the town of Franklin. I'm fully of the opinion that even if the Northeast Energy Direct pipeline, the Tennessee Gas Pipeline, does stop, and there's getting to be a lot of opposition, that one might not happen. If they don't get the one through Massachusetts, there's very little need for the one coming across us. So that might not happen in our area. But with that in mind, I think it's entirely possible that anything that was planned for that pipeline could easily jump over onto the Constitution. They have not indicated any need for a midstream compressor. As they try to get more gas through it, they are going to need one somewheres. There's a purchase offer available up the road from me in Franklin that probably they would be very willing to pick up. So I think Franklin could see something of this nature, even if the Tennessee Gas Pipeline does not happen. There's also paperwork that FERC filed with FERC by the NED that implies that there will be a very large electric generation plant, gas-fired, on the supply line. That supply line is Pennsylvania to Windsor. We're in it. If there's a compressor station here, we very likely would be candidates for that. And if they really think they need it for New York State, it would be nothing but move it over to this other pipeline. So with that said, I just respectfully ask that you would seriously consider adopting some sort of a resolution in opposition to a compressor station so that Franklin at least is on record that we didn't want it. Thank you.
What's the board's opinion? Well, the open house, I thought I got some good answers there about the emissions and stuff. And I'm not against, there should be more testing. I don't disagree with that at all. And if you said, you know, if a testing unit was what, 40?
About 40 grand to set up a
40
permanent
grand?
monitoring station.
A permanent one, not a portable one. I'm just.
This was permanent with the
This was
building.
permanent,
Well,
right.
because if you have a compressor, you should be able to test afterwards, not just before.
Right. But I was just wondering, they must, I would hope, maybe they don't, make one that's mobile. So you could stop in at different compressor station areas at different times, not have it there at one site all the time. And spot checking is what I'm getting at, Donnie, because on the paperwork you gave us last month, it showed where it varied from over a 3-day period. And that
Oh,
wasn't-
yeah. It went from
Right.
0 to
And that-
20,000.
Right. But I would, you know, and that's where I would think it, why FERC, why the state, why federal, whoever, EPA, they don't have something like that. I mean, for $40,000, they spit out the window and waste more than that. I mean, that's
Well-
petty for the government to waste.
When you look at 800 million to build that, well, 700 some that's going towards 8 to build the Constitution.
That's right.
You look at 5 billion, 8 billion, whatever's going to wind up
Right.
for the other one.
For the other one.
$40,000 at each compressor station is peanuts. So
It
that's
is.
what I'm saying. It ought to be in a negotiation. When it ever comes to that,
Right.
a permanent monitoring station should be set up.
It should
So
be,
that-
and I don't
so that's why
disagree with
I think
that.
the board is on board with that.
You know, I don't disagree with that, you know, it should be monitored, you know, for the cost factor that you're talking
It's
is
peanuts for them.
peanuts. I mean, that's all it is, and it's not just for them. I mean, the towns along this pipeline course, you know, if you got 4 towns together, it's $10,000 a town to have a permanent one put in, instead of one town footing the whole bill, because the other towns are gonna benefit, they may not benefit from the assessed value.
But you're kind of like back to the point with the roads. It really has to be at the point where it's done. I mean, whatever town a compressor winds in needs a station. So if you're going to make them pay for any damage to the roads, the company still should be the one that pays for the stupid testing.
Oh, I
I'm just
don't-
asking that you
yeah.
should, if that comes to it, negotiate. your heart's out.
I agree. It
And I think you
should
do.
be
Yeah,
negotiated
yeah,
in the
Right,
term to get
right.
a testing unit
But
because of the Constitution.
Yeah, and I
But,
think
you
we have
know,
agreement on that. I agree on that.
right, we do agree on that.
Yeah.
To
But
ban
then-
one,
But in terms of, just asking you to come out in opposition, a lot of other towns have, a lot of governments have.
Mhm.
Going across Massachusetts, there has been various counties, states, and towns, not states, towns that have gone
Towns.
against it.
Yep.
Just to let them know that, it's not necessarily gonna help our community to have something like sitting there. That's all I'm asking.
Mhm.
So, I'm done.
Okay. Now, what's the opinions?
Well, as far as the air quality, I've done a little research as well on it. There's other figures from what I've learned that comes involved in it. Each compressor station that we learned at that forum daily monitor what their emissions are and post them levels. The air quality thing with the stations, from what I understand, after what you were saying last month, I talked to some people, there's a lot of other factors that contribute into the air quality and what's coming across, other than, like right now, if we set one up here, from day to day, we would get a variation in air quality depending on what the trade winds were. A lot of the air pollution coming this way could be coming from, as far as like Buffalo, Pittsburgh, those kind of situations.
That's your
So it's-
baseline.
So it's very hard to establish
But that's your baseline.
for a fact that that is exactly where the pollution's coming from, is from having a compressor station fly in here. So that's part of why there's very inconsistent facts as to exactly what levels of emissions, other than what comes off of their basic sniffer system on their compressor station.
But when they do have a blowdown event and they put out, we know that didn't come from Buffalo. I mean, it's just, that's the type of thing that, there should be there is no monitoring on the blowdown events that is been correlated and collated, and whatever you want to call it, for across the country, for across various compressor stations. They just know a certain amount of gas is given off. So, but anyway.
But I think the bottom line is, I think, we're pretty much in agreement that there should be in these pipelines, the pipelines aren't such an issue as the compressor station, because of the gas blow-offs and everything like that could happen. And that's where, as you said, $40,000 for a testing system is petty to not be done, or not be part of the FERC regulation that on the older ones are gonna be probably dirtier than the new ones. I'm thinking,
And the reciprocating ones especially.
Right, so, and then that's where, there should be more testing, and that's where these gas companies should be footing the bill. Or FERC making them to foot the bill. Nobody's gonna do it for nothing unless they're forced.
But my last statement is,
Yep.
it comes back to the point of, if you're not against it, it implies you're for it.
Right.
That's all I'm saying is,
Mhm.
if you think that the town can be protected and it would help mitigate anything we have to do going forward, like arguing about air testing or whatever, then a resolution in opposition to it has some weight.
Mhm.
Without that resolution, it's almost as strong as having a resolution for it. Standard thing is, if you don't like it, you complain. If you like it, you don't say nothing. So I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Appreciate your attention.
Okay. Doesn't seem to be much, I would be against the resolution against it this time. That's my opinion. And whatever everybody else, and if they feel they, anybody wants to look the other way, or wants to have a resolution, they're more than welcome to bring it up. But that's where I stand on it right now, that I'm not ready to jump ship or get on the ship or whichever, I'm not in favor of a resolution at this time against the compressor station, Donnie.
Thank you.
But the testing, we do have to do it. That article for Chris Gibson, which I got chewed on up in Delhi for that a little bit, saying you know, you got one in your backyard and he didn't even mention you. Well,
We
I
checked on
took
him a
the-
little.
you know, and I did stop into Paula's office right after that. And I said, you know, back a year ago, I did give them the Mohawk Valley or Mohawk County or Madison
Health
County
report.
health report. You know, I gave that to them to look at and, you know, to see what they could do, and then we get left out in the cold for nothing. So I guess, you know, but that's, you know, it hasn't been forgotten, but, you know, I told them, you know, it's, you know, we are concerned about the emissions. It's not that we're just saying, bring it on. But at this time, I'm not in favor of a resolution. That's my feeling on it right now. Sounds like Mother Nature's raising some hell up there. So, yes, Pete?
We also brought up about the ADA and the pilot at,
Yes, yep,
and that was blood on the wall. you mentioned.
yep. Yeah, I discussed that in the
Outside
finance
meeting.
meeting.
Right? I was there.
No, you weren't at the finance meeting.
No, I
You
was
were
at
there
the other
at-
one.
At the
Outside,
meeting,
we were
yes.
talking,
But I
discussing.
got after,
The
you know,
blood
they
on
said,
the
you know,
wall was
it's,
mentioned.
they want to give this and that for something. I said, you know, well, no, this came up because of the solar panels, the solar farms. You know, give pilots for them and stuff like that. I said, boy, you're just open, you know, you give it for this and that. How can you not give it for something else? I said, when they're a commercial business, they have no right having a pilot program. Homeowners don't have pilot programs. Their assessments keep going up every year. In big business, they'll pay up front, then they want their assessment reduced. Why? Why should they get it?
They shouldn't get it.
They shouldn't get it.
It's just a matter of the squeaky wheel trying to get some
Well,
wins.
whatever it is, it's wrong, and you're right, they do get it, and that's what's, you know, the rest of the taxpayers are picking it up, that's all there is to it.
And the idea is that their pilot programs might make some sense where it does mean a lot of jobs.
Right.
But compressor stations with, you know, 1 or 2 permanent full-time jobs just do not make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, you're right. And it takes 15 years to get from 0 to 100%, and that's, you know, half the tax money they don't pay.
And then they
And
still threaten.
homeowners do pay it.
Well, and they
That's
threaten a
my-
lawsuit if you even get up to 100%. They'll threaten a lawsuit like they did in Schoharie to beat it back down again. So.
But that's what that's what I don't understand, that's wrong.
Nope.
Homeowners, you know, their assessments keep going up. You have maintenance on homes, you have maintenance on businesses. But the business seems to be able to reduce their assessment because the equipment's wearing out. Well, equipment in homes wear out too. You're replacing your appliances and roof and siding, but that, you know, we did bring that up. You're right, Pete, that was brought up afterwards, we talked about it. And, but I had brought it up at the finance meeting, I said, boy, this could be just a, you know, ugly. Because if you give them the tax break for solar, how the hell can't you give them the tax break for compressor and pipeline? Because they're gonna say, fair is fair.
It's
So
not
it's-
fair.
No, but if you allow it, but if you
Welfare.
allow it for one,
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, you should go- right.
should not start the precedent.
that's right, I agree with that. Yeah, and that's what they've, you know, there's some issues out there, you know, it's,
Jesus.
yeah, that's taxpayers' money that's not gonna be paid or will get paid. But I think, is there anything else? Well, I would, have a nice, motion to adjourn if we want to.
So moved.
Are we in a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We thank you very much.